The greatest hero of World War II never fired a single shot. He never stormed a beach. He never held the line.
I was nobody, a ghost long before I died. Hunger, that's what I remember. Cold that eats into your bones, and the taste of poison.
This is not a story about generals or battle maps. This is the story of a homeless man who died in a London basement after eating rat poison in desperation. His name was Glyndwr Michael, but the world would know him by another name. A name that would save tens of thousands of lives on the shores of Sicily.
They dressed me in uniform. They gave me a name. They gave me a love I never had. I am Major William Martin, and I am going to war. Already dead.
April 1943. A corpse, a briefcase chained to its wrist, drifts toward the coast of Spain. Operation Mincemeat. The boldest deception in the history of warfare. Welcome to Echoes of Valor X. By early 1943, the war in Europe had reached a bloody stalemate. The Allies had driven Rommel from North Africa, but ahead stood Fortress Europe. Hitler had fortified the Mediterranean coast. The next Allied move was obvious. Too obvious. Winston Churchill famously said, "Everyone but a fool knows it's Sicily." Sicily was the gateway to Italy. But the Germans knew it too, turning the island into a fortress. An invasion there against a prepared enemy would become a slaughter. Another Gallipoli. Thousands of young men cut down before reaching the shore. British intelligence needed a miracle. They had to convince Hitler, a man ruled by paranoia, that black was white. That the Allied fleet gathering in Africa was heading not for Sicily, but for Greece and Sardinia. But how do you trick an enemy waiting for your move? How do you plant secret documents so they appear truly lost?
A man carrying such secrets never lets them go unless he has already lost his life.
The answer came from an idea known as the Trout Memo. Simple and horrifying. Find a corpse, dress it as an officer, give it fake invasion plans, and let the enemy find it. Today, we tell the full story of Operation Mincemeat, how a forgotten Welsh drifter became, in death, one of Britain's most important intelligence officers. For the plan to work, they needed more than just a body. They needed the right body. There could be no visible injuries, no bullet wounds, no signs of violence that couldn't be explained by a plane crash at sea. And most cynically of all, the man must have no family searching for him. Naval Intelligence Officer Ewan Montague and M15 Agent Charles Cholmondeley began a grim search through London morgues. They found him at St. Pancras Hospital morgue, 34 years old. Glyndwr Michael. Who was he? History preserved only fragments. Born in poverty in Wales, the son of a miner. After his father took his own life and his mother died, Glyndwr was left alone in a world already sinking into depression and war. He drifted to London, hoping for a better future, and found only hunger and cold.
In London, nobody looks at you. You become invisible. A warehouse wall was my home. I found bread, but it was smeared with some paste. I was so hungry. And then the fire in my stomach. It wouldn't stop.
Glyndwr Michael died of phosphorus poisoning. Rat poison. A slow, agonizing death. Phosphorus destroys the liver, causes jaundice and coma. But for intelligence officers, it was tragically convenient. The fluid in his lungs could easily resemble drowning. He could pass for a man who had died at sea. Montague and Cholmondeley reached an agreement with the coroner. Officially, Glyndwr would receive a state burial. In reality, his body was preserved in cold storage. Here begins the moral nightmare of the story. They took a man who had nothing in life, and even stole his death. His name disappeared. Glyndwr Michael would cease to exist. Someone else would take his place.
They took my clothes, they washed my body, they spoke about me like a prop in a play. "He'll do," they said. I was no longer Glyndwr. Now I was an officer of the Royal Marines.
He was given the temporary rank of acting major, high enough to carry secret documents, not high enough to be widely recognized. His new name, William Martin. But giving a corpse a name was not enough. To fool German intelligence, they had to give him a soul. Spies know the devil is in the details. If the Germans found the body, they would examine everything, every pocket, every scrap of paper. If Major Martin seemed fake for even a moment, the plan would collapse, and thousands would die. Montague and Cholmondeley began constructing his life from nothing. They became his biographers, his friends, his family.
I enjoy a good cigar, though I'm trying to quit. I'm careless with money. I go to the theater, and I'm in love.
They filled his pockets with keys, cigarettes, matches. Ticket stubs from London theater shows proved he had recently been home. Receipts from shops. Bills from the Naval Club. But the most important detail was Pam, his fiancée. An MI5 secretary provided her photograph. Montague's team wrote love letters. They folded and unfolded them again and again, even rubbing them against clothing so they would look worn from being read many times.
My darling Bill, I know you've only been gone a short while, but it feels like years. I miss you terribly. Please be careful, my love, and come back soon. All my love, Pam.
They also placed a receipt for a diamond engagement ring. £53, a huge sum at the time. Proof that this man planned a future. Proof that he wanted to live. There was even a letter from his father complaining about everyday problems, and a bank notice demanding repayment of an overdraft.
I had debts, a fiancé waiting for me, a father disappointed in me. I became the most alive dead man in Britain.
But the most important item was the briefcase chained to his wrist. Inside lay a personal letter between Allied commanders. Buried within casual language was the deception. The Allies would invade Greece, while Sicily would merely serve as a diversion. A perfect double bluff. Now Glyndwr Michael was ready, dressed as Major William Martin. Love letters near his heart. False invasion plans at his side. The briefcase was chained to his wrist because an officer would never release such documents, even in death. His body was placed inside a steel container packed with dry ice. On the outside, a label read, "Optical Instruments. Handle with care." On April 19, 1943, the submarine HMS Seraph left port on a secret mission. On board was an unusual cargo. Only the captain, Lieutenant Bill Jewell, knew what the sealed container truly held. To the crew, it was described as classified meteorological equipment. Their destination lay off the coast of Spain, near the town of Huelva. Why Spain? Because although officially neutral, Spain was full of German agents. British intelligence knew local German operatives had strong connections with Spanish authorities. If the body appeared there, it would almost certainly reach German intelligence.
Through steel and ice, I heard the engines. 10 days in darkness, the rocking of the sea, the smell of fuel, my final journey.
April 30th, 4:30 in the morning. The submarine surfaced a mile from shore. Captain Jewell ordered the container brought onto the deck. Most of the crew were sent below. Only officers remained. The lid was opened. Dry ice vapor drifted away into the morning air. Major Martin saw the sky again. The officers checked his pockets one final time. Everything was in place. They read a short prayer. Psalm 39. I was silent. I would not open my mouth. for you are the one who has done this." Captain Jewell gently pushed the body into the sea. The current from the submarine's propellers carried it toward shore. An overturned rubber dinghy was also released, suggesting a plane crash. Then HMS Seraph submerged and disappeared. Major Martin was alone in the Atlantic darkness. His mission had only just begun.
The water was warmer than that London basement. The current carried me. Dawn was coming. Soon they would find me. Soon I would become a hero.
The body was discovered by a local fisherman. Spanish authorities recovered both the corpse and the briefcase. And just as British intelligence hoped, news quickly reached the German vice-consul in Huelva. A complex diplomatic game began. The British consul urgently demanded the return of both body and briefcase, insisting the documents were of great importance and must not fall into foreign hands. The more panic Britain showed, the more the Germans wanted to see what was inside. Under German pressure, Spanish officials allowed Abwehr agents to secretly inspect the documents. The envelopes were carefully opened, photographed, and resealed. Even Pam's love letters were copied. The briefcase was then returned to the British, with assurances it had never been opened. But British intelligence had planted a tiny trap, an eyelash hidden inside one of the letters. When the briefcase returned, the eyelash was gone. London received the message. The mincemeat has been swallowed. The documents reached Hitler. He believed them completely. So convinced was he that he redirected armored divisions to Greece, even delaying operations on the Eastern Front. Rommel was sent to Athens. Troops were moved from Sicily to Sardinia and Corsica. German forces fortified Greece, watching the sea for an invasion that would never come.
They believed my lies. They believed in Pam. They believed my debts were real. My meaningless death suddenly mattered. Armies moved because I remained silent.
On July 9, 1943, the Allies launched Operation Husky, the invasion of Sicily. More than 160,000 troops landed on the island under the cover of naval and air support. German and Italian forces resisted fiercely. The fighting was brutal. But the key German reserves were already stationed in Greece and the Balkans, redeployed there after believing the deception. Even after the landings began, Hitler continued for several days to view Sicily as a diversion, keeping major forces away from the island. That mistake proved fatal. After 38 days of fighting, Sicily fell under Allied control. The losses were significant, but the catastrophe feared in London never came. The Axis lost tens of thousands of soldiers killed, wounded, or captured. Sicily had fallen, and with it, Mussolini's regime began to collapse.
Thousands of young men went home. They married. They raised children. They grew old. They lived the life I never had, because I died for them in a London basement.
Major William Martin was buried in Huelva with full military honors. On his grave, paid for by the British government, were carved the words, "Dulce et decorum est pro patria mori." It is sweet and fitting to die for one's country. For years, no one knew the truth. Only in 1996 did archived documents reveal the identity of the man who never was. And in 1998, a new line was added to the gravestone. It reads, Glyndwr Michael, served as Major William Martin. A homeless Welshman rejected by society in life became, in death, one of the greatest unsung heroes of the war. He never chose this fate. No one asked his permission, but in the cold arithmetic of war, his life and his death became priceless.
I am no longer a ghost. I am an echo. My war is over.
If you want to hear more forgotten stories, not just of victory, but of survival, sacrifice, and the true cost of war, Subscribe to Echoes of Valor X, because war never truly ends on the battlefield. It lives on in echoes.